Welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast, where we empower you to build a better ranch and transform your operations into a thriving business. I'm your host, John Haskell. Let's get started. Welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast. I am joined today by Tyler Dawley out of Northern California, and you may have heard him before on our podcast, he is a chicken guy, or the chicken man in my life. So, Tyler, how are you? Welcome back to the podcast.
I'm good. Thanks for having me back. I thought I would have been chased away, tarred and feathered, never allowed back onto a cattle ranch podcast again.
I thought you dissuaded everyone we knew from starting a chicken operation, but apparently not quite.
Yeah.
So,
well, if I did that, then I did the right thing, and all of you listeners can rest easy and not have to go worry about chickens.
Hey, but a quick preview to sometime in the future. Tyler, for those of you that like cattle, Tyler has cattle on his place and has currently got a full setup for a halter fence system, or a halter no fence system, and is having cool results with it. Someday we're going to talk about that, but not right now.
Okay. I'll just say it's amazing. Do it. Virtual fence is amazing.
Very good. Not sponsored by Halter, just so we all know. We've been having some conversations here recently, and I have tried to make the point multiple times that as your business grows, it is actually important to do things differently. We talk a lot about process in business. We talk a lot about, sort of standards and best practices, that sort of thing. One of the things that has become clear to me over the years is that big business or bigger businesses are not just smaller businesses multiplied. And Tyler has a perfect example of this in his life right now, a couple of them, sadly, where he has grown his chicken business to a certain size and has grown his customers so that his customers are now much larger than they once were. And it's created some interesting impacts in his business. So Tyler, give us a quick rundown of your chicken history, and then we'll get to the current. You kind of bring us up to where you're at currently and how you manage the business, who your customers are, that sort of thing.
So started out 15 years ago, direct marketing, farmers markets, one chicken at a time. Never got super good at that. Stumbled into a wholesale contract where we were selling 600 head a week to some other distributor, basically. And I had no connection to the end customer. My customer was the distributor. And that ran us down this wholesale avenue. And we've just been running that playbook to some success off and on for the last 10 years. So that's basically where we're at now, is we grow chicken for other people to sell.
And tell us a little about the product, because you grow a very specific product, right?
Oh yeah, we're niche of niche. So we are pasture-raised chicken, certified organic, certified regenerative, no corn, no soy, air chilled, flash frozen, and if all goes well, a non-Cornish cross set of genetics. So basically, if you want to find the tippy top weirdest of the weird chicken, that's what we do.
Yep, perfect. A fantastic eating experience, I will add.
Oh yeah, it's really, really good chicken. That me, who have raised chickens for 15 years, this last piece of a non-Cornish cross genetic, I was like, our chicken's really good. I mean, I can't imagine genetics have that much impact. And we had some of these new chickens and we're just like, oh, they're better. How did that happen? So
yeah, interesting. Okay. So over time, as you've grown your business and you've been pretty successful in the stuff you've done, you have grown to larger and larger customers, right? Kind of started, like you say, one chicken at a time, up to where you're selling hundreds or even thousands of chickens to the same person, right?
Yep. Yeah. So we've grown to the point now where I basically trying to have my minimum order number be 3,000 chickens. That's for me, one semi-load of chickens. That's where I start customers out at. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, but that's my unit that I work from. So that's a lot of money. That's, it's not as much as a semi of cattle these days, but it's not far off.
Right. I think I would be surprised per pound if it's different at all, but okay. What's a pound of chicken cost at your wholesale level?
We're going to be about $7 a pound this year, more or less, kind of, sort of.
So a 50,000 pound truck of chicken it's expensive.
Yeah, it adds up.
Yep. Okay, good. So now you've had some things happen that have made you realize that you need to change a few things about your business. So explain a little about what's happened and how that's led you to thinking about how things need to change.
Right. So we didn't start off at 3,000 head being a minimum order at all. I would have probably died and gone to heaven if someone had showed up, 5 or 6 years ago asking for that much. So it kind of just crept up, it'd be 500 here, 1,000 there. I'd kind of combine some customers onto one harvest schedule. And over time, customers were able to sell more chicken. So they started buying more. So basically, it went from a kind of distributed, like, each customer was, let's say in the $10,000 to $15,000 range invoice, something like that. And now each invoice has crept up into the $50,000 or $60,000 range for each customer. Not every invoice is like that. I'm not, that's just kind of giving you a ballpark of how this is kind of grown. So we've gone from, a customer shows up, they want to buy something the first time. It's a couple, three, four, $5,000. Cool, new customer. Then they come back and they get, one whole load, and you're like, oh, 20, 30, $40,000. Oh, that's great. And then they step up into multiple loads over the year. Now you're talking like 9, 12, 15,000 birds a year. And, that turns into a six-figure contract, big six-figure contract. But it started off at like, $4,000 or $5,000. And yeah, so when people don't pay on $4,000 or $5,000, it sucks, but you can survive. Or possibly, if they're really trustworthy, they'll sell their car, whatever, they can pay you off. But when they get up into, $100,000 or more, that when they don't pay you, that's a whole different level of not fun.
And selling a simple piece of equipment or doing something on their end doesn't solve the problem, right?
Right. Well, and not only that, by the time you're selling to someone like $100,000, like they have an LLC going, they have the veil, whatchamacallit, between personal
Corporate veil.
assets and
Yep.
business, corporate veil. And that, at least to the people I'm selling to, these meat companies, most of their assets are inventory. They don't have cows running around that you can put a lien on, if I could even figure out how to do that sort of thing, right? So the
They have a freezer full of more of the stuff that you already have, right?
right. It's like, I sold it to you because I didn't want it. If I wanted to be selling my own chicken, I'd be selling my own chicken. I wanted you to sell the chicken. And you were doing it up until this moment, and now you're not. And you now have my product. I gave you net 30. You have my product in the freezer. I don't even start really, I don't, that was the terms. I don't even, then all of a sudden it's like 45 days out, 60 days out, and longer. I'm not saying I made the right call here. And when you really start trying to turn the screws and be like, hey, people, you owe me a lot of money, and this is my ranch at risk, what we're doing at risk because you're not paying, that it turns out you don't really have much of a leg to stand on. They have the chicken, and what are you going to do? Send me a nasty
In
email?
some
Oh,
cases, they may not have the chicken too,
well,
right?
that's even the worst part. They'll have sold the chicken and still not paid me, which has happened, So, but you don't have your, and this is not at all legal advice and could be wrong, but if all I have is an accounts receivable, an invoice out to them, there is some legal standing to that, but not very much. It's not like you can take this invoice and take it to a judge or anyone and really make anything happen with it. It's, you know, we all believe in the handshake, your word is as good as your bond type deal. But when that doesn't work, or a better way of saying it is, I operate on the handshake is the deal. I'm okay. Like, if you need a little more time, fine. But when net 30 turns into net 60, and then you say you're going to pay me on 60, and then 60 turns into 75. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I am operating on trust that you will pay me, and you're basically feeding me a line of horse crap and then not following up on it. And all I've done is give you more time with my money and made it harder for me to take any legal action. And so it's sucky, man. I mean, yeah, it's not really fun having to figure out, promissory notes and personal guarantees and piercing the corporate veil and, collections and lawyers. And it's like, oh man, I joked about this earlier. I mean, this is the tax of being successful, right? So I can't complain too much because I have somehow managed to find customers who will buy 6 figures worth of chicken from me. But that's not people that just can pay things off, right? You've graduated to a different business relationship. And that's you probably should be figuring things out on how to protect yourself.
Yep.
Or
And I'm gonna good.
I was also going to say that this is also an emotional thing, right? This is something that's happening to me on an emotional level where I'm like, hey, I know this people. I've been working with them for 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. Like they've always paid before. I believe in them. I believe in their mission. Like we're on the same team here. We're trying to get stuff done. But at some point, your personal relationship becomes a detriment to your business success, right? Like where do you differentiate between business and success or business and personal? And I'm learning this right now and it sucks that I think I'm going to end up tying it to like a net day, like net 30. Okay, net 30, I'll give you that. If you're not paying me by 60, like this, I can't like, and some of you probably out there are screaming at me like, you're going for net 60 before you get mad. But maybe I shouldn't take that long. But at some point, you have to, and I am learning this the hard way, you have to transition from being like, hey, I know the guy, I like the guy, I'm going to give him some more time to, hey, I got to protect my own here. Like, I got a business, I got bills to pay. Like, I'm not his bank. I'm not getting interest from him. I'm not getting equity in his business. Some of these people are essentially that's what you're doing is you are investing in their business by not getting the money from your accounts payable. And they have other people who've invested in the business for, let's say, 100 grand. They're getting equity positions and I'm getting bupkis. I don't have interest. I don't have equity and I'm not getting my money. Right. So don't get me started.
Okay, so let's highlight a couple of things here because the first one I want to be, and we've seen a bunch of this lately. When customers do not pay, and I'm going to leave it that way because I mean whether they don't pay ever or whether they don't pay on time or however that works, it has a severe negative impact on your business. Your bills don't stop. You've got to pay your mortgage, you've got to pay your feed bills, you've got to buy the next round of chicks. Whatever that is, all of us have money going out, right? And that doesn't get held up because we don't get paid. Nobody's interested in our sob story about, well, our customer didn't pay, so that's why I can't pay the gas bill, right? Doesn't matter. The other thing is there is always a risk of not getting paid, so time is one problem. So even being late is a problem. But then if you don't get paid, we've seen some cases where a significant customer, so a customer that represents, let's say, 10% or more of your total revenue doesn't pay. And then, in some cases, we get a notice like, oh, by the way, this customer went out of business or something else happens. That's not getting paid at all, which obviously means that you've incurred all those costs, you've done all that work and not going to receive anything for it, which is a problem. Then, as you mentioned, there's sort of all of the other fallout that goes with it, right? So there's the impact on your business plus the relationship fallout, some of those things. One thing that I really want to emphasize, especially when we've talked about a number of times sort of segregating the direct consumer business apart because most people aren't good at raising the animals and marketing to the customer. When we separate that, we should do some things to protect ourselves. And I'm curious now, given your position, you mentioned a net 30 as your normal payment terms. What do we change in our payment terms? What do we change in our process? What do we change in our contracts so that we reduce the probability of this happening? This is always going to happen, right? Businesses fail. It's part of the deal. Every now and then a bill doesn't get paid. That's not necessarily the end of the world, but we want to put ourselves in a position where the probability is as good as possible. So what are your thoughts there now?
Okay, again, this would definitely not be legal advice, and all my good ideas may have come from AI. So, take these things with a grain of salt.
With a grain of salt, yeah.
First thing is that I would have probably a personal guarantee, some sort of promissory note signed. Like when I onboard you as the customer, you're going to sign some sort of document saying that these are the terms, this is the price, and that you personally guarantee this, because you need to be able to pierce the corporate veil and hopefully not ever have to do it, but be able to go after their personal assets. And if you don't have this legal arrow that pierces between their LLC and their personal assets, life gets a lot harder. So have that set up. I would also make sure that each purchase order has some sort of agreement going with it. This I haven't fully thought out, but basically, if I can send them a purchase order, I don't even know if that's the right term, but send them some document saying, hey, we just talked on the phone. You're going to order 3,000 birds. Here is the terms for this order, in addition to this master document that they signed when they onboarded as a customer. I think that gives you a lot of ability to make some things happen with them. Then the other thing, and this is, I think, almost more important from an emotional standpoint, is you need to come to a hard decision. Like after pick a day, 30, 45, 17, whatever. That's it. This is no longer friendly. I can like you, dude, but this is business. You made a promise. You are not upholding it. And that I'm going to have to do the things I don't want to do because I just have to do it. Like if I didn't have to be this guy, like I don't know how many of you guys have out there had to do this, where I've literally had to text some of these people multiple times a week for weeks on end to get a one-word response, right? That absolutely sucks. And you know that they're probably hurting because if they could pay, they would pay. But on the other hand, they're sitting out there with your chicken or beef or whatever it is, selling it. And you know that they're paying some other vendors with the cash flow they're creating off of your product, right? And they're just ignoring you. And you have to essentially take it because you have not set up any sort of legal hammer that you can bang over their head with. So it's like what day you started getting grumpy at, how hard do you have these these agreements set up in place? But as you were saying earlier, John, that this is a different league. Like this is not a handshake. This is doing a contract with a different company that if they fail to pay could put you out of business. And it sneaks up on you. Like this is actually the second time I'm dealing with a similar situation like this year. One of them ended with me getting zero. Guy ghosted me for months, didn't tell me he went out of business, checked his website. His website was, weird, under construction, went to his Facebook page and said, thanks for 7 years of, letting us serve you meat. And that was the only indication I ever got from this guy who owed me way too much money that he was out of business. And when it all went belly up, I'm like, I have nothing. Like, there's nothing to sue. The guy's gone. I can't find him. Like, I have nothing. It's done. He just walked away with tens and thousands of my dollars that he used to run his business into the ground. So this second situation I'm dealing in, like, I'm a little emotionally burnt on that first one. So the second one, I'm like, I'm not doing this again. I can't,
Right.
like, not let alone the money. Yeah, let alone the money factor, which absolutely sucks. This is like getting kicked when you're down the second time. Like, no, I'm a nice guy. I'm a trusting guy. I want to work with you. I want to succeed. But you can't take advantage of me. I can't let myself be taken advantage of. And that for me, I think, is what's going on right now, is this kind of mental attitude shift where it's like, no, you can't take advantage of me like this. I know exactly what you're doing. I won't take this anymore. And you have to, I think, if I were to give advice to someone else, get to this headspace way faster than I did.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair. Here on Ranchonomics, we talk a lot about making better business decisions on the ranch. And that's exactly why I started RanchRight. We create accounting systems for ranchers who want real clarity in their numbers to help them be significantly profitable. No cookie cutter packages, no corporate fluff, just financial tools that actually work for ag operations. If you're ready to understand your numbers and grow your ranch with confidence, head to Ranch Right LLC and let's get started. The other thing, would you consider instead of 30 days, would you consider either a significant deposit, prepayment, a 5-day term,
Yeah. So, I mean, it depends on the customer. So, what I was going to do this year, and I still might, is that, hey, pre-order at last year's prices. If you don't do that, here's this year's prices on, basically COD, and you've signed a personal guarantee on it. And if you go like net 15, like we're going to start charging 18% interest or something like that. So the idea would be, I want to economically encourage you to prepay. If you have to pay at the time of, like, you're paying full price, and if I end up carrying your note, like, I'm basically charging you interest immediately because I'm not a bank. I cannot
right?
be your bank.
And
I
you're
cannot
paying
fund your
interest
business.
on your end, right?
Exactly. So the problem is that you talk to anyone in this wholesale world, it's all net 30.
Yep.
It's just industry standard. And if you try and be like, no, I already spent the money, I need it back. They're like, fine, I'll pay you in 30 days. You're like, but no, I put net 7 or COD on my invoice. Like, yeah, we'll pay you in 30 days.
Yep.
And if you don't
Yeah,
have anything
UC filing, any thoughts on that?
more sophisticated and complicated than I am. I mean, AI says it would be a very good thing to have access to, and you probably should want to do it, which to my understanding is basically having your purchaser say, hey, you can put a lien on my equipment or my assets, my business assets. Yeah, if you can get it. I mean, see, here's the thing.
That's for anybody that doesn't know, that stands for Uniform Commercial Code. That's basically like when you borrow from a bank and you get your credit report finds out about it. It's because they have basically filed with the state, right? Usually the Secretary of State's office filed basically a notice that says, hey, everybody, so-and-so owes me $100,000, right? So when you take a credit card or you get a loan at the bank, that's what happens. All those things get reported, and then you show up on that person's credit report just like any other debt, right?
Yeah.
And it may give you some advantage in a bankruptcy or a liquidation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you that feed livestock, a feed lien is the same thing, only it actually is a top priority item. So I don't know where chicken falls in that space, but if you are a cattle feeder, you have the ability to file a feed lien with the Secretary of State, and that puts you basically first in line if there is a bankruptcy proceeding or liquidation, something like forced liquidation, something like that.
Yeah, chickens are weird. I don't have anything useful like that as far as I know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What else would you consider? I guess the other thing I'm thinking about, Tyler, is, do you cap the size of your customers? Are you careful if you have a customer that's too big?
So I know exactly what you're saying. Single point of failure, key man risk, all the same sort of stuff. But it is so hard to sell chicken that when someone actually steps up and says, I'm going to buy a lot of chicken, I know the logic and everything says don't take that order or cap them to, 25% max or 30% max of your production. But if no one's going to buy anything and they will take 80% of your production, how do you say no to that? You can't.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I will sell, although maybe I'm getting a little smarter about this, but I'm like, yeah, you keep buying chicken, I'll keep selling it to you.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we didn't talk about repeat orders, which is something I meant to mention too. If somebody hasn't paid the last bill, do they get to order again?
Well, no, they shouldn't. But here's the problem is that they agreed, because what I do is I do kind of a semi-contract, low-key contract. I'm like, hey, you want 12,000 chickens this year. I'm going to harvest in June, August, October, December, whatever it is. So by the time they start not paying on that first invoice, I'm already well into halfway growing out that second flock for them. And that, because it's contract, not quite contract, but dedicated to these guys, I don't have a home for them. I'm not going to be growing birds just for the fun of it. I don't have the money to put in the freezer. So that I'm kind of doubly screwed in that regard, where if they're not paying me for the first one, I'm already paying the production costs on the second one. And if I don't give it to them, I still don't have a home for 3,000 birds all of a sudden. So yeah, no, that sucks, which has happened. We've had single points. Sometimes it works out really great where one buyer buys all of our stuff, and it can work out great until it doesn't. So we've done that twice. The first time we did that, it was at the beginning of things, and it was okay. We had a single buyer, and then COVID kind of blew up that relationship, and it was time for it to end. And then we had another relationship like that where they were buying all of our product, and it took about 10 minutes from me thinking that they were going to double their order from me the next year to them actually going to zero. So I went from growing 70,000 birds a year to those guys and expecting to do 140-ish for them the next year. Guy called me up, said, "Hey, my boss had a meeting and he's shutting the business down." Sole owner, they treated me right. I have no bitterness towards that company. They did everything right except go out of business.
Right.
But that is the problem, where you have a single point of failure, where we basically have just started digging our way out of that debacle 4 years ago, where I finally have enough people buying chicken. So I don't know, man, this whole business thing sucks. It's hard. So, all of you cattle people who can always just, worst comes to worst, put them on a truck, take them to the auction yard, at least you get something. It's like, oh my God, that would be so wonderful sometimes.
Oh, no. Hold on, because the other big non-payments we've seen have been in the cattle business. So I'm using you as an example, but we've seen non-payment for custom grazing multiple times. We have,
I was thinking more auction yard. Like
I understand. Take the Eastern livestock debacle. I mean, we've had cases where big portions, big segments of people don't get paid. So it's not, nobody's immune from this. And sale barns have checks bounce all the time. So it's a tough deal. So look, here's let's wrap up, because we've gone a little long here. But what I want to make sure we use this example for, and I appreciate you being willing to share, is that as we grow our businesses, we want to be I talk often about the risk of growth, but we want to be very cognizant of what the new risks are as we are growing to a new type of business. When you were selling one chicken at a time, if a customer's check bounced or they never paid you, like, okay, no big deal, it's $30, like, off we go. When it's thousands of chickens at a time, you need a different level of thinking about contracts. You need a different way of thinking about receivables. You need some different relationship processes with those customers, because we have got to manage that, because that winds up putting more and more risk on your plate. And I just want to use this as an example of, as we are growing, and on the livestock side, of course, we're in this piece where things are worth a lot more. So we're dealing in much bigger quantities of dollars, right? We need to make sure that we are acting according to our size, that we're not running a multi-million-dollar business the same way we were running a tens of $1,000 business. We need to do that differently. So Tyler, I really appreciate you being willing to share this. I am sorry that this has happened. Like I say, you're not the only one. So it has been we're recording this in January 26. There have been quite a few events we've seen in the last 6 months where people's business has really been turned on its head because of non-payment by a customer. We want to be very aware that that is a possibility and how to manage those risks. So thank you.
Of course.
Okay. Awesome. Tyler, it's always good to have you. We will talk soon. Have a great afternoon.
I'll let you guys know how it all works out in a couple months.
Yeah, good. Thank you for tuning into the Ranchnomics podcast. We hope this episode helped you win today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with a friend.